Hi friends. So, my hair is a little bit different, and honestly I don't like it, so let's pretend that it doesn't exist on my head. But today is a really exciting video, and I have been saying I was going to do it for a long time, so today I'm going to do it. We're going to go over my med school application. I ended up getting 2 acceptances, one MD, one DO. And since I'm going to a DO school, I'm going to read my DO application to you guys. I'm mostly going to read the essays that I wrote and talk about kind of what my transcript looked like, what my MCAT was, all that good stuff, because I didn't have anybody that I knew that applied to med school to multiple schools. My one friend, he applied direct admit somewhere, so their application was a little bit different than mine. But I just want to be like a academic advisor or like a mentor type person for this video so that you guys can look at what I did and maybe it'll help your process. So first of all, if you want to apply MD, there is a website called AMCAS, and that's where you apply for MD. If you want to apply DO, it's a completely separate organization and it's called AACOMAS, I think is how you say it. So if you want to apply to both, like me, you have to fill out everything through the MD and then everything through the DO. Something to note is the essay character length is longer for the AMCAS and it's shorter for the AACOMAS. So things to consider. Also, it costs money to apply to medical school. So depending on how many schools you want to apply to, it's about like $300 to $500 a piece. I'm pretty sure. I think it cost me over $1,000 to apply, and that might be an underestimate. I don't really remember, but these are just things to consider when you're applying.
Also, if you go on to the next round, these are called secondaries, and it's about $50 to $100 to submit this secondary application. So in total, it is going to cost quite a bit of money depending on how many you apply to. So don't forget to account for primary application fee and secondary application fee. The secondary applications are more about the specific school that you're applying for, and essays about their mission statement, their values, and how you align with them.
So the AACOMAS website, but first of all, so you get here and you have 4 different quadrants to fill out. So first is the personal information. Let's go through it. Basically, it's all just your personal background. So we don't really need to share anything there because it's not that important. Let's go to academic history. So you need to have your transcripts sent to the school or to AACOMAS. So you actually have to go on Parchment is what I use. You go to Parchment, you select your university, and then you select the destination of AACOMAS to send your transcripts to. And this actually is how they send it to the medical schools that you apply to. And then if you went to a community college during high school, you also have to send that transcript as well. So these are also things to consider. There is a little bit of a fee on that. Then you select your college and then you do your transcript entry. So I haven't actually talked about my transcript, but to give you guys some hope, I wanted to read some of my lowest grades so that you guys can know how I got into 2 medical schools with somewhat mediocre grades, I guess. I got a B+ in organic chemistry, 2. And then I got a B in organic chemistry laboratory, a B+ in my human biology course about climate change. I got a B in physics 1. I got a C+ in biochemistry, a B- in physics 2. Anatomy, I got a B+. And then also in organic chemistry, I got a B+. I'm not usually like a B student. I was also going through a lot during college, so I wasn't devoting as much time. I also figured out I have ADD. So I got on medicine and my grades actually ended up being a lot better. So that's my transcript, and actually you will go in and select your category or subject for each class and then how many credit hours and what your grade was. So you want to actually send an official transcript to yourself so that you can look at your official transcript and input them in the transcript. So not only are they receiving your transcript, but they're also looking for you to input the transcript. And it's really tedious, but I found it kind of fun because it's like easy. And you also get to think about how you did over your college career, and I think that's cool to look back on. So then you go to supporting information. So evaluations, you actually have to send the letter of recommendations into the portal. I did this through Interfolio, and there's a whole help section on the AACOMAS website about how to send your letters to the portal. It's very confusing, but I used Interfolio. Interfolio does cost money at the end if you want to send them to people, so I think it's like $30 for the year or for the month or something. And so then that's whenever you send all of them into AACOMAS. I think there is a 5 letter of recommendation limit. I could be wrong. And you have to see how many letter of recommendations have to be a science professor and how many have to be a regular professor or an outside of college and just a personal reference. So next is the experience section, and I'll include screenshots of all this. Okay, it'll only let me review some of them, but let me read the ones that it will let me do. I don't know why. So let me just go ahead and read through all of my experiences that I chose. I chose a senior conference assistant. That was a job that I had. A volunteer at a homeless shelter. A researcher, an observer in shadowing, running, a volunteer at a free medical clinic, organic chemistry tutor. I played rec sports, so I put that as a sports team member. I talked about how I love to go to coffee shops. I talked about a club I was in. I talked about being an RA during school, which was also a job. Talked about being a patient care technician at an ER. And then I talked about the gym, love going to the gym, and I also talked about YouTube. So you don't want to just stick to things that make you look good as a medical student. You want to also let them get to know you. So that's why I chose YouTube and coffee shops and the gym and running. So I'm going to read you a few of the excerpts that I wrote. The thing that I was told by my pre-med advisor is you want to write stories, because think about how many applications they're seeing all the time. You want to write in a way that intrigues them and makes them get to know you. At the end of reviewing your application, they're like, oh, I really like her, or I really like him. So that was my advice. So the first one that's letting me edit and see is my experience as an observer. So I'll read you. Although I worked in the emergency department, I knew that expertise in one medical field doesn't translate to another. To deepen my understanding, I shadowed physicians, PAs, and NPs in emergency medicine, behavioral health, family care, cardiology, and neurosurgery. Each time I entered a new hospital area, I was humbled by the vast knowledge and patient care skills I encountered. I observed compassion from providers and made mental notes of the qualities I admired, aiming to implement them in my future patient-provider care. So this was less of a story, but also I only had 600 characters including spaces, so you kind of have to figure out how you can write precisely and to the point. So for running, this is what I wrote. As I stepped out of the porta potty in the woods at mile 6, I dreaded the miles ahead. I wrote the porta potty part because if you're a runner, you know that, and it's also funny. A blister was forming and a calf cramp worsened. I remembered the cake and chocolate milk at the 13.1 mile finish line. I blasted a motivational podcast and did a walk-jog combo until reaching victory. After 26 weeks of disciplined training, I finished my first half marathon. By the end of my undergraduate career, I completed 2 half marathons with 355.9 miles over 128 runs. This experience taught me mental strength and to persevere through mentally and physically challenging moments. I thought that was a cute little story that I wrote. Okay, so volunteering at a free medical clinic. Free, Deborah said to the person at the counter. What? The patient questioned in disbelief. You don't have to pay anything for your visit today. Seeing the stress about paying for a medical exam leave the patient's body reinvigorated my passion for helping medically underserved areas. Deborah White, NP, dedicated her time to finding a building and supplies to care for patients in Vincennes, Indiana, who couldn't afford health care. Watching her humility and advocacy began my long-term goal of opening a free medical clinic in the future. So that is actually a long-term goal that I have. It's not like just I wrote this for my application. I would love to do that someday, and it was really cool to watch that experience. Okay, so coffee shops. See, I don't even remember these, so. The low-frequency music and ambient lighting in coffee shops provided the perfect space for hours of study, helping me earn my bachelor's degree. My love for people and coffee drew me to locally owned coffee shops in Bloomington, Indiana. Familiar faces and dedicated students working towards similar goals were comforting during the isolating moments of college. From trying the barista's coffee recommendations to learning about the academic goals of others, I found a haven where I could combine my passions and goals with a fresh brew. Oh my gosh, that was so good. Sometimes I get in flow state with writing, and it's just like, I'm amazed that I even wrote that. because like I was dreading this part of the application, guys. I hate writing, but it took everything out of me all last summer to write all of these. Okay, this is about emergency medicine patient care tech. In the emergency department, I worked as a technician, greeter, and secretary. I have been trained in HIPAA, EKG attachment, CPR, toileting assistance, timely call light response, and other duties. I assessed patient severity at the greet desk, assisted patients in their room as a technician, and managed patient transfers and doctor requests as a secretary. I developed an understanding of hospital culture and etiquette and worked closely with physicians to observe and aid in their pursuit of the best possible patient care. So that's just my job description, like a resume. Okay, gym, let's see what I wrote. I grinned at my phone, updating my bench press personal record. After weeks of consistent lifting, I was finally seeing results. Every free chance, I escaped from school and job responsibilities to find peace in the gym, giving my brain a break. I learned that physical discipline starts with thoughts. Enduring physical challenges helps me to master my mind inside and outside the gym. Without this outlet, I would have struggled to emotionally regulate myself through college's most stressful moments. YouTube. Okay, what did I write for this? And I'm sorry I can't read the rest, but I kind of feel like I'm talking a lot, so sorry. Hadley, I heard while I walked down Kirkwood. This is actually a true story, guys. Hadley, I heard while walking down Kirkwood in Bloomington, Indiana. I watch you on YouTube. I love your vlogs. I was shocked to be recognized by a stranger regarding my videos. Despite facing judgment from my peers, I disregarded the negatives while valuing the constructive criticism to improve my content. Over time, I accumulated 1.6 million views and a loyal following of over 6,000 people. I created an online community to share my authentic life experiences. Seeing a subscriber in the heart of Bloomington made the previous judgments and hours of editing worth it. Sorry, I can't speak. But yeah, those are all of my ones that it's letting me edit. So I just kind of wrote something that gave people an idea of what I did and what I like to do and my experience that I gained from it. So something that my advisor told me to write down is every time that I help somebody to write down that moment so I could write a story about it. And I also just think that when you're picking your most meaningful experiences, make sure to think of a person or an experience or a moment or a feeling that really resonated with you and then write about it in that way. That's some stuff that I wrote about my experiences. And then if we go to achievements, I don't have a lot of achievements and that's okay. But I got Most Creative Award for my RA job and that was in 2022. I got a chemistry scholarship when my major was actually chemistry and that was in 2021. And then I made the executive dean's list and I didn't put a date because I got them like various dates, so I just left it blank. So those are some ideas of what you could put for achievements. And also, let's see my personal statement. Okay guys, are you ready? Sorry, this is going to be a long video. Every time I would see a hospital or clinic as a child, I had no idea what was happening behind the sliding glass doors. I saw clips on television of a dramatized environment, usually depicting rarities and traumas, without focusing on the reality inside. This idea of healthcare held true in my mind until I became an emergency department technician, where I witnessed an atmosphere that was unlike any other profession. I watched other technicians, nurses, doctors, and ancillary staff work endlessly towards the same goal, improving and saving patients' lives. After working and observing day shifts, night shifts, multiple days on, and overtime, a cumulative view of medicine revealed a new truth. Everyone involved is applying critical thinking skills and individualized cultural and educational knowledge to collaboratively achieve the best possible patient care for the sake of goodwill. It became apparent that the hospital was nothing like the time slot of entertainment, but all about the team that comes together to complete a mission with unique challenges every single day. Before working as a technician, I only saw physician-patient interaction when attending my grandmother's neurological appointments. After multiple specialists had seen her, the inevitable diagnosis of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis was as shocking to the physician as it was to our family. This was my first experience that physicians were more than their cold and emotionless portrayals on shows and movies. Providers may clock in and out of their job, but the emotional and spiritual investments in their patients are 24/7. While sitting in the hospital room, I found that patient care goes beyond life-saving heroics and can be done by providing dignity, comfort, and spiritual support to the dying. As I continued my quest for understanding healthcare, I viewed additional fields of medicine like the perfect routine of the OR, the complexity of behavioral health, and the devotion of primary care. Finding the needs of the less fortunate was discovered when I volunteered at a free medical clinic where healthcare was centered around humility and compassion without monetary interest. From this point, I realized that a physician's career is not confined to a time clock or a location, but a commitment to caring for others wherever there is a need. I feel that becoming a physician starts before the accolades and medical degree. It begins when the person realizes the value of every human life and devotes their time and knowledge to becoming trustworthy in times of vulnerability to improve people's mental, physical, and spiritual health. In college, I was blessed to be in positions that will inevitably strengthen my prospective patient-physician relationships. I learned interpersonal skills and mediation strategies as a resident assistant at McNutt Residence Hall. Ensuring safety and personal growth in each of my 50 residents every year required resident-centered care and an individualized style that was developed by an investment of time and interest. This skill I learned as an RA carried over into one of my biggest passions, helping underserved populations. At the homeless shelter, I remained a consistent volunteer who would show belief in their progress and encourage them through challenging moments. I remembered their interest to convey sincerity when rooting for them, even when the system felt like it was against them. Although I was able to provide spiritual and emotional care, I yearned to help them in physical ways. I saw stroke victims who received care too late, people in need of joint replacements without funds or housing to receive surgery, dental problems that negatively impacted their quality of life, as well as other ailments. With every malady I witnessed, I dreamed of a time in the future when I could care for this population in medical ways, knowing that if I could practice medicine, I would open a free medical clinic in the area where I reside. Through the discovery of what lies within the walls of healthcare institutions, I am certain that the actions I have witnessed of the healthcare team should be followed by all, a team that imperfectly but perfectly strives for excellence with all its might to benefit others. While admiring the care delivered to others, that was kind of repetitive. Oops. I have also learned that self-care is necessary to combat the expected compassion fatigue, especially since I believe that the compassion and vision for humanity should not be reserved for the field of medicine and should continue beyond the time clock. The empathy should extend past the double doors of the clinic or hospital. Being in healthcare spaces has helped me to realize the personal sacrifice of workers and volunteers to better the quality of patients' lives at all costs. I know confidently that I want to be in this role and space for the rest of my life. A personal goal of mine is to carry this environment to all interactions. When passing by the healthcare buildings in my daily life, I am excited to one day apply my knowledge and experiences to patients, as well as offer the purity and sacred space inside to the people beyond the walls. Medicine may be a practice that is often carried out inside a building, but the duty of a physician never ends. Sorry if I lost some of you guys, but I'm putting it on the screen so that you guys can read along. But I just wanted to make it a point that I realize that this is not just a job, and it's not like any other job. It's really unique, unless you're in a healthcare setting, but it's very unique, and that was basically, hopefully I got my point across, and it's kind of wordy at some points, but I just wanted to write about the fact that this is so much more to me than a job, and it's actually how I want to live my life and how I try to live my life. Like, I love helping others. I love being a sacred space for others to come to that feel like they can trust me, and I can't wait to do that in a way that, I'm going to gain all this knowledge from school, and I'm going to be able to do this in a different way with a different magnitude. So that's kind of what my personal statement was about. I included a personal story about my grandma having ALS, and I also brought in some experiences that I had that kind of create this dynamic that is what has molded me into wanting to be a doctor. So it's hard to write your personal statement. I would look online to see what other people recommend, but this is how mine was, and I got into 2 schools. So then the last section of your application is actually just going to be applying to all the schools that you want to and sending your application to them.
So for this section, you'll actually have to choose your schools, and then you'll have to go into each individual school, answer questions, and then pair your classes with their prereqs, and it'll give you options from your transcripts to do that.
So yeah, that is it. Also, I want to say, when you get your MCAT back, you'll have to send it to AACOMAS and AMCAS, depending on which one that you want to apply to. Also, you're allowed to apply with a late MCAT. So there's not deadlines for a while, so you can send an MCAT that you haven't even seen the score for. It's just about how close you want to be to the deadline and how good you feel about the exam. Also look into what are the medical school requirements for MCAT. Sometimes if you're out of state, it's a higher MCAT, so you don't want to spend money on programs that you have to have an MCAT requirement that you don't meet, because they actually will let you apply, but you won't get in, so don't waste money. Just be like a little bit smart about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was really wordy, but I wanted to give you an idea of like what does one's application look like? What do I write about for these sections? I had no real guidance, so this is my guidance to you, and hopefully it helps somebody out there and gives you maybe some ideas about what you could write or what you could put in your application. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I have a video coming up partnered with UWorld, surprisingly. Then I have some moving vlog videos coming up for when I move to medical school. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.